Hey, welcome to JD Outdoors. Today's episode is from Lake Millwood. My buddy Chad Crawford and I went and spent 2 days on Millwood, and between the two of us, we boated over 200 crappie. We had a great time. We did not keep 200 crappie. We kept our limits, our legal limits, never went over that. So just want to make sure I had that for a disclosure or a disclaimer. So anyway, Millwood was good to us. This trip all started, I guess last year. A buddy and myself, we were fishing a tournament series that started at Millwood, and we went pre-fishing like the day before the bass tournament. It was a bass tournament. Actually, I used to bass fish all the time. So anyway, we went and pre-fished. Well, I kept my crappie rod in there. I started live scoping, last year, and so I had like one crappie rod in the boat and a few jigs. So we were pre-fishing. I caught a few bass, not many, and on the live scope I saw some crappie hanging out, and ended up catching a limit of crappie the day I was supposed to be pre-fishing for a bass tournament. Well, it was so fun. Like the next weekend, I took off and reserved the cabins there at Yarborough Landing, and I just had 3 days of just absolute fun catching crappie. So I was telling my buddy Chad about it, and we kind of made a plan to go and do it this year. So that's kind of how we got to this video. So just check it out. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be going over some of the things we caught the fish on, and how to rig, and the things that we did. So anyway, hope you enjoy it. Millwood, the going color on our trip a couple weeks back was I guess the main color was this shad colored or just gray silver jig. This is a hand tied jig. I tied it myself, just kind of to emulate the shiners or the bait fish that they were chasing, and it seemed to work. Well, all right, let's get straight to the action and watch us catch a few crappie on Millwood. Today's trip, they forecasted like 13 to 15 mile per hour winds. So we went up the river system. As you can probably tell, we're hitting some of the backwaters and oxbows. Starting to see a lot of fish hanging toward the bottom. Actually, some of them are just laying down there in the mud, which is a little different than what I came across last year. We actually caught them in the standing timber, and they were staged and ready to bite. Today seemed to be a little tougher. There's a couple more crappie on the bottom. Really all you can do is just lay your jig on the bottom right there by them and see if they'll hit it. Watch closely here, you'll see me slide my pole back. Just because they have a handle doesn't mean that's where you have to hold it. do what you got to do to get that jig right in front of that fish. Yeah, Chad's up in front of me, and I'm catching the ones that he's leaving behind. I like to give him a hard time, but he catches more fish than most anybody I know. Hey, I finally got one that's not all the way on the bottom. We could actually see him a little better here. Hey, let's take a break from the action a minute, and I want to show you my setup. I want to go through my setup here, just so I can show you guys exactly what it is that I rig up when I'm crappie fishing. First of all, I start out with these bobber stoppers. You can get these at I like to buy local when I can, because these guys support the local community. And so I like to buy any of the supplies that I can get locally. So here's these bobber stoppers. I get them at Sportsman's One Stop or Country Village. You can get either place there, whatever's most convenient to you. All right, I put these bobber stoppers on the line. You just put the line through the end of the wire and then pull the bobber stopper onto the line like that. So that's number one. Put that on first. And as far as the weight, I like to use tungsten, just a tungsten worm weight. This is a 3/16 ounce. And there is another option that Bonehead makes, and I do like them. They're a little bit more bulky, which is good, especially if you're new to Livescope and you're trying to find your bait. But this is a Bonehead weight. It's got flat surfaces all over it. This is actually a quarter ounce, but you can see that those flat surfaces will reflect the pinging of the Livescope sonar, so it'll make it more visible to you. So if you think that might help, you can pick those up. I know they had them at Sportsman's, and that's something you could try. And I'm not sure if Country Village has any of these, but that's a good weight. I've used it and I like it. I do like the tungsten because it's a little more compact and I don't have as much trouble seeing my weight anymore. And I like to be able to drop it in with as little noise as possible. Sometimes they're spooky. But I string it on, bring it up to that bobber stopper, and then you add your second bobber stopper. Pull your stopper onto the line, just like that. All right, so now you see what I've got is I've got a pegged weight. Basically, I got a bobber stopper top and bottom. I can slide that up and down the line to change the distance to my jig. My next step is I use these little bitty clips. Everything about crappie fishing seems to be little bitty, but these are just wire clips that I tie on, and it allows you to change your jig quickly. It also lets your jig move freely. Some people actually like to tie their jig up tight so that it sits level in the water. I don't know that it makes me that much difference. I just tie this on, I think they call Palomar knot. I go, make one loop around, pull it back through like so. So I got it tied on, and then I bring the actual clip back through that loop that's left. And I like to pull the tag in tight so it doesn't leave a kink in my main line. If you moisten that line, to keep it from heating up and breaking so easily. All right, so now I got my clip on there, and it's like a hook, but it snaps on, snap that jig on, and there you go. So my entire rig is ready to go. And I can slide this if I want to keep it closer to the bait, or I can slide it up if I want to get it, further away. I usually like to go about 12 to 16 inches. That's the rig we were using at Millwood. Basically a shad colored 1/16 ounce jig and a 3/16 ounce tungsten weight, pegged about 16 inches deep. You guys might have noticed the line is a bright green. This is called a P line. It's a 15-pound fluorocarbon coated line, and I really like it. It's heavy enough that you don't break off your jig easily. If you got a flexible enough hook, that 15-pound line is strong enough to bend that hook enough that you don't lose your jig, and you can actually bend your hook back and keep fishing. I don't have any problem using this 15-pound line in any of the lakes that I normally fish. I've even fished up at Lake Dirks, which is really clear and kind of a rocky lake, and I used this high-vis line. Didn't have any issues catching crappie there. Sometimes it might affect them, but I haven't really run into a big issue with it. This line is actually thinner than just a standard monofilament 15 pounds, so it doesn't have as much resistance in the water, and it will allow your bait to fall and get there quick. So I really like it. You should check it out. 15-pound P-line. Well, the wind's really kicking up even in these backwater lakes. It still makes it tough to stay on the fish, but I'm doing my best, and it's paying off here and there. If you notice how the boat's moving, but you can still see the fish and my bait, I'm actually got my foot on the trolling motor, keeping it pointed right where that whole thing's going down, and hoping he'll hit it before I run out of time. There's a group of small fish laying close to the bottom, and luckily the biggest of the bunch takes my bait. Man, here's a double, but with the wind blowing, I know I'm probably only going to get a chance at one of them. Here's another instance where I had to choke up on my rod. You can see how far back I pushed the reel, and I'm holding it end up holding it about halfway down. The boat's drifting, and I'm getting closer to this fish. I don't really want to bump the trolling motor and spook him, so I just did what I had to do to get that bait right in front of him. He looked like a pretty decent one, and it ended up that he was. Something a little different about this one. He definitely was aggressive towards it, and I found out why. One of those little feisty white bass. I love a good floating fish. He's just sitting out there, not moving. Man, that's what it's all about right here. There's a couple more hanging on the bottom again, so we're gonna give them a try. man, we've had a good day. The sun's getting low. We got to go clean fish. We got one more day tomorrow. You can catch it on my YouTube page. It's Millwood Day 2 in late February. Look for it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like.